I just returned from Israel, so I'd like to begin with a small humorous story. You know, as you go to the Kotel, the Western Wall, you see many people there begging for tzedakah, for charity. And tell a story how an Israeli Arab who was working on construction very, very hard in a hot summer day. At the end of the day, if he's lucky, he makes 100 shekels. So he walks by one of these beggars and he asks them, tell me, how much money do you make a day standing by the wall collecting charity? So the fellow says, I make, not so much. I make about 350 shekels. He says, 350 shekels? He's sitting like this and saying, tzedakah, tzedakah, tzedakah. He says, yeah, the Jewish people have a big heart, and when they see one of their own, suffering, they give tzedakah. So I sit all day, I go tzedakah, tzedakah, and I make about 350 shekels. Israeli Arab is saying, why should I work hard and schwitz and walk out with 100 shekels when I can sit a whole day and do tzedakah, and make 350? So the next day he puts on a kippah, puts on a yarmulke. He sits next to the wall and he goes, tzedakah for a poor Jew, and everybody's giving him tzedakah. At the end of the day he counts up the shekels, 350 shekels. Fantastic, he can't believe it, it's amazing.
That's $100. It's not, it's too much.
No, it's not. He walks over to the fellow who gave him the advice yesterday. He said, I want to thank you, it was great advice. I sat down and I said tzedakah for a poor Jew, and I made 350 shekels, so thank you. He says, that's nothing. He says, what do you mean? Well, on the other side of the wall, there's another fellow who makes 600 shekels a day. He says, really, how does he do it? He says, well, that person is a convert to Judaism. And because he's a convert, he has no family, so, Jews have a mitzvah to love a convert double. So people give more money. So he makes 600 shekels a day. I says, wow, that's a great idea. So the next day he puts on 2 kippahs. And he goes to the other side of the wall. He says, tzedakah for a poor Jew, a convert to Judaism. And his hand is out all day, he's collecting tzedakah. At the end of the day, he counts up all the money, 600 shekels. Unbelievable. This is great. He goes back to the poor guy. He says, I want to thank you for the advice today. I sat down on the other side of the wall and I said, tzedakah for a poor Jew who's a convert. And I made 600 shekels. I mean, it's unbelievable. This definitely beats, working in construction. He says, that's nothing. So what do you mean? On the other side of the wall, there's a Jew who's an anikel, a grandchild of the Baal Shem Tov. The holy Hasidic mystic, the father of all Hasidic branches, and he says, tzedakah, grandchild of the Baal Shem Tov, and he makes 1,000 shekels a day.
Yeah.
So that's unbelievable. I got to try that. So the next day he puts on 3 kippahs. He goes to the other side of the wall, and he says, tzedakah for a poor Jew, to a convert to Judaism, to a grandchild of the Baal Shem Tov. I don't know if I'm a biological grandchild of the Baal Shem Tov, but no doubt anyone who studies Kabbalah and Chassidus is definitely a spiritual grandchild of the Baal Shem Tov. So with that introduction, I would like to talk about my new book, which is called By Divine Design, the Kabbalah of Large and Small and Missing Letters in the Parsha. I'm beginning this with a story that in 1946 there was a young yeshiva student by the name of Rabbi Leibel Posner. And Rabbi Leibel Posner was called into the office of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he was said, what are you doing this summer? He said, well, I had no plans. What should I be doing this summer? He says, well, I want you to go on America Shlichus. I want you to go around to different dormant villages and towns and sell some books and mezuzahs and connect Jews back to Judaism. So Rabbi Posen was very excited about this new mission that the Rebbe was giving him. And the Rebbe told him like this: when you go and you meet another Jew, he told him in Yiddish, sollst du sehen sein Meilis und nicht versehen sein Chesronis. You should see his qualities, his good qualities, but not overlook his shortcomings. And then he went on to say, by Chassidim Zogamin, by Chassidim we say that in the Torah, Sfaranin, Asvin, Ravravin, Va'asvin, Ze'ir, in the Torah, there are large letters, and in the Torah there are small letters. When you look at another person's qualities, you should look at their qualities with big letters. When you look at their shortcomings, you should look at their shortcomings with small letters. And this is a very powerful lesson for all of us. Unfortunately today, we become very judgmental. We go out and we date and we have children and we have colleagues, and they do one thing wrong after 20 years, that's it. I can't believe you did this to me. We know each other for 20 years and you slighted me, that's it. I'm not talking to you ever again. For 20 years you dedicated your life, for 20 years you love the person, for the 20 years you're willing to give up your life for the person. And one little thing wrong, one little small letter was out of place, and boom, the whole relationship is severed. Says the Rebbe, it's the opposite. On the contrary, when you see a good quality, that you have to see with big letters. And a mistake you overlook with a small letter. And the same is true with children. In Torah, we have children, or we have friends that have children, or we're teachers and we have students. And the child comes home from school and says, Ma, I got a 98 on the test. What? I don't believe it. A child like you, a 98? How come you didn't get 100? I put so much effort and time and money into you, you only got a 98. Alright, it's nicht gefährlich, it's okay. 98 is 98. And then the child comes home one day and he flunks the test. He got a 64. Oh my God, I can't believe it, a 64. How'd you do this? You're going to ruin the whole family. You're going to ruin your shidduch. Your grandfather's turning over at his grave. I can't believe it. You got a 64 on the test. And then the child goes and he's in school one day, and another child is in the swimming pool and drowning, and then your son jumps in to save him. And he now gets a big medal in the school for saving this child. And he comes like, oh Ma, look what I got. All right, it's nice. It's okay. It's not great, but it's, I expected that from you. When it comes to big qualities and good qualities, unfortunately we look at it with small letters. And when it comes to faults, we look at it with big letters. Says the Rebbe on the contrary. When you see a good quality, you have to look at the quality with a large letter. And when you see a fault, look at it with a small letter. Don't overlook it entirely. Help the person overcome that challenge. But the focus should be on the talents. The focus should be on the good qualities, to enlarge them and to embrace them and to use them in a very positive way. These large letters and these small letters are found in the Torah. The Torah scroll that we have today was dictated by God to Moshe letter by letter. And the Medrash says that every letter in the Torah was actually dictated visually through seeing the letters and through audio, through hearing the letters. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu saw a black fire on top of white fire. And then in addition to that, God also pronounced the letters how they are supposed to be said. So the first word in the Torah is Bereshis. Moses saw a large Beis, and then an average size Reish, and then an Aleph and a Shin and a Yud and a Taf, and God told him how to pronounce the word. And then there are other words in the Torah which are called Kri and Ksiv. in the Torah it's written one way, but it's pronounced another way. And then you have 32 letters in the Torah that have dots on them. And these dots, God told Moshe Rabbeinu to put these dots on top of these letters. So, in general, in every Torah scroll there are 304,805 letters. And every letter is integral to the entire Torah scroll. If one letter is missing, the whole scroll is not kosher. And we know that the word Yisrael, which means the Jewish people, we are called the Bnei Yisrael, is an acronym for Yesh Shishum Ribui Oisis La Torah. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. Now we just said there are 304,805. So it's a good question. One of the answers is that in the Torah you don't have vowels. If you add up all the vowels, or the letters that represent the vowels, you would have 600,000. But the point over here is that if one letter is missing, the whole Torah scroll is not kosher. You cannot read it in the synagogue on Shabbos. And the same is true if one Jewish person, God forbid, is outside of the fold, the entire fold is incomplete. So when Mashiach will come, no Jew will be left behind. Every single letter, every single Jew will come together with Mashiach when, God willing, very soon He reveals Himself and builds the third Holy Temple. So, tonight, I want to talk about the design of a Torah scroll. In front of you, you have a paper, which is a picture of some of the columns of a Torah scroll. And just to point out the details of this column and how they enhance our connection with God and our connection with another Jew. Every column in the Torah, besides 6 of them, begin with the letter Vav.
Really?
Every column in the Torah begins with the letter Vav. There are basically 248 columns in the Torah. How do we know it starts with the Vav? Because in the book of Exodus it says Vaveo Amudim, that the Amudim in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, in the desert, had hooks. So Vaveo Amudim means the hooks of these columns. But our rabbis tell us there's a hint to the fact that the columns in the Torah should begin with the letter Vav. So every column begins with the letter Vav besides 6. Why did they begin with the letter Vav? We'll soon discuss that. The 6 other letters that are not a Vav are Beis, Yud, and Hey, and Shin, Mem, and Vav, which spell out 2 words, B'ka Shemoy. His name is God. Now, it's obvious why these 6 letters are different, because if you look around the room, you'll see some beautiful artwork on the wall, and the bottom of every piece of artwork, you'll see the signature of the artist. So God, who's the artist of the Torah, puts His name in the Torah. What's His name? Because Shemai, His name is God. He is the author of the Torah. He is the artist who put together this beautiful work.